welcome back to the channel. As you can probably see, the conditions are unbelievable today. Wasn't expecting this. Yeah, this is going to be fun. We're in Glen Feshie this weekend, and the camping setup is going to be just a standard tent, sort of tent backpacking type thing. Bit more walking this week, and because I'm spending less time sort of setting up camp and doing those sort of bushcrafty type things, I'll probably talk through the video rather than leaving it all to the end. But it's -2 at the moment, so it's going to be pretty cold. I'm not planning on having a fire, so I brought gear with me to accommodate that. I do have my small bush box, but that'll mainly be just for cooking and boiling some water. I've got a gas stove as well, but we'll see. The spot that I'm going to, I've been there before, but there's not a huge amount of sort of firewood, and I think anything burnable will be buried deep under snow today. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We've got about 7 or 8 kilometres to walk in. We're going right to the end of the glen. We're going to camp by the River Feshie itself. But like I say, there's about maybe a foot of snow here, so it's going to be hard going. It's actually quite busy. Quite a few people made it in, but they've all just headed off on cross-country skis, which would have been nice today. But yeah, we'll get going, we'll get packed up and we'll get walking in, and yeah, hopefully we'll get some spectacular views today and see how we get on. Is it good? You like snow? Go on in. Go on. I just wanted to say something quickly about this first little bit. So the pine you see up the top, that's the mature Scots pine remnant that probably wasn't cleared because it wasn't very accessible. It just wasn't worth the hassle. There used to be a fence that run below it as well to keep sheep out in more recent times, but since the sheep have been taken off and the deer numbers have been reduced in the glen, you're starting to see regeneration filling in. This glen, this is on the other side of the glen, was planted up for timber, just like pretty much every other glen in the Highlands. But you can see the straight edge of the plantation in the distance, and the one in front of us here, and there's a Caledonian pine remnant strip running up and down the hill that's survived. But today with the snow, you can really see again in between that the regeneration is really starting to come through now that the deer numbers have been reduced, and hopefully that should just keep happening all up and down the glen. We're just looking at a bit more of a close-up view of what I was talking about back there. So you can see the Caledonian pine remnant. It's quite a different woodland structure to the plantation stuff. and then of course all the Scots pine regen that's now starting to fill in between them all. So things are definitely on the right track here. Lots of work still to do, but yeah, I'll talk a bit more about that later on. So the first sort of main bit of forest that you walk past in Glen Feshie is this here. It's one of the plantations that would have been planted maybe back in the 70s, something like that. Some of it's Scots pine, so it can be left, it's fine, native species. But there's other things mixed in, non-natives. I don't know if you can see behind me just there, there's a big block of larch, which is a non-native species. Now, when the trees are smaller, kind of like this height, you know, we would come in and fell these small trees and just leave them in situ, and they decompose and, you know, put nutrients back into the soil. They're not that big, it's not an issue. But these big mature trees, you know, that's going to be a mess really to fell them and leave them. But there's no access here. You know, we're just on a footpath now. You'd have to build a road in, even to get machines in. You know, never mind getting timber out. So I don't know what the estate's plan is for bits like this. There's a few bits like this up and down the glen. I don't know if you can see over the other side there. Oh, where am I? There. There's blocks of non-natives too. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here over the next decade or so. As you walk up and down Glen Feshie, one of the main areas you see the biggest difference is actually in the riparian zone. The old course of the river, as it's changed over the years, it's left these sort of sandy banks, and the Scots pine just love it, and now the deer pressure's off. The regen's pretty incredible in some places. So we've made it into the first, I would say the first proper bit of forest in Glen Feshie. And it's mostly Scots pine, but it is plantation, you know, it's been planted very densely. It's native, so that's good. But yeah, this could do with thinning out at some point, but again, access machines, it's a lot of effort. So again, I don't know what the plan with this is, but I guess we'll see over the next few years. Again, just another section of Caledonian pine remnant. You see it stretching up the hill, and then the regen that's filling in. Really clear today in the snow. So we're really starting to see why Glen Feshie is so popular. We're kind of getting into the main Caledonian pine remnants now on both sides of the river. And on a day like today, it's not going to look better than this. Just stop for a snack. I always try and take some sort of trail mix when I'm doing longer walks. And we've got some banana chips, salted caramel M&Ms and some dried fruit, which is very nice high energy snack. You can see the big mature pines that were left, and even since I was last here, which is probably 3 years now before the pandemic kicked off, I can see a difference. And these trees are marching way up the hill, way beyond 500-600 meters in elevation. What's so nice about this bit in here is there's masses of juniper, and I can't really think of anywhere else that I've been where I've seen juniper like that. And it's something that's missing from a lot of our pine woods, certainly a sort of West Highland pine woods that I'm more familiar with. It's almost non-existent, especially in Africa. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. Perhaps the growing conditions aren't as suitable, so it was harder for them to come back, or I don't know. But some of the juniper in there is huge as well, and it's obviously very old. So this is juniper that we're looking at. Maybe knock some of the snow off so you can see it properly. We are just coming up to the bothy now. I can't quite see it, but I can smell the smoke from the fire inside. I'm not going to stop or go in, but I'll show you it as I walk past. The regen in this bit is amazing, and that's quite a bit different since I was here last, like noticeably different, which is good. But as you can see to the right of it, even 8 kilometres up this remote glen, they were still getting people to plant trees in dense plantations. Here, another big block of plantation. And I think some of that is actually Sitka spruce, which will regenerate very aggressively if it's left, which could do or undo a lot of the work here. So again, I'm going to pitch up here. Yeah, like I said, there's about over a foot of snow maybe. So I'm going to dig some of this out. Yeah, we're in one of the Caledonian pine remnants right at the end of Glen Feshie. Like I say, I've camped here before. We're right on the river, it's very nice, very steep and narrow here, quite dramatic. So yeah, we'll get pitched up. I don't want to mess around again. I'll get all this dug out, get the tent set up. I just wanted to show you this before I start setting up the tent. It's just a length of paracord doubled over with overhand knots in it and a carabine at the end. And you put it round the tree, clip it into the nearest loop or knot with carabiner, and then you can just hang your gear from it. I actually saw this on Instagram on Jern Outdoors, or Jern maybe, J-E-R-N Outdoors. Really nice guy, his name's Christian, lots of good content, so yeah, go and check him out. So the tent I've got is from Nature Hike Outdoors. It's a Cloud Up 2, I think it's called. It's basically a Chinese knockoff of the MSR tents. I bought it maybe 5 or 6 years ago. This is a cheap tent. I think it was just over £100, but it's actually worked really well. Quite happy with it. Still going, no problems. It's very lightweight. It's a very cosy 2-man or a roomy 1-man and his dog. So yeah, it's ideal for sort of longer backpacking trips. It weighs, I think it's 1.2 kilos all in. So yeah, it's pretty good, especially for the money. Yeah, I'm quite happy with it. So yeah, we'll get this set up now. Right, that's the tent set up, very quick and easy. I actually kicked some of the snow back around the tent just to block some of the gaps, because I think there's going to be a cold wind tonight, and it's a very airy tent. Like the inside is mostly mesh, so yeah, block a bit of the wind. This is Darach's bed. It's just the Moondog bed from Climate. Just inflatable, takes a couple of seconds to blow up. Just gives him a bit of insulation, a bit of comfort too. And it comes with a cover you can put on, which is washable, and it's quite moisture resistant as well. So if they're wet and muddy, it's handy. But it's just like carrying an extra, very small sleeping bag. That's it. Doesn't weigh much at all. I'll just show you inside the tent. That's it pretty much set up. So yeah, I've got my thermarest, sleeping bag. That's just some clothes, battery pack, puffy jacket, everything ready to go. I normally just throw my rucksack over in the back corner in this tent. A couple of blankets ready to go for Darach. And he just sleeps in the front here, like that. So it's cosy, so I'm going to see if I can find some easy wood to just get a small fire going. If I can't, I'm not going to worry too much about it. But yeah, it would be nice to warm the hands up and boil water for dinner using the fire. So we'll see how we get on. So I managed to find, there's a big dead pine not too far away, lots of dry dead branches. We should be able to get a fire going with that. I didn't bring my full fire kit, but I did bring this small waterproof bag with dry birch bark, a bit of fat wood, and there's a small ferro rod in there as well. So we should be able to get something going. Temperature's definitely dropped. Anything that's a little bit damp is starting to freeze now. The wind's picking up a little bit. And I think because we're in such a steep, narrow part of the glen, you know, the wind, it's almost like a wind tunnel effect. But I'm going to feed the dog and get this fire going before we lose too much more light. It's 5:30 now. I guess it's quite cold in there. So we're just in the tent now. It's just after 7. It's pretty chilly. Things are freezing quite quickly, so it's obviously below freezing out there, and there's a bit of a breeze now that's making it feel quite cold. I think that's going to be it for me for today. There's nothing much else happening. We're just going to chill out for a couple hours, then sleep, hopefully. So I'll say goodnight for now and see you in the morning, which is probably going to be quite chilly. But yeah, good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Morning everyone. It's just before 6 o'clock. It hasn't been the best night's sleep. It's raining pretty heavy. The wind's pretty strong. The wind's been blowing quite large clumps of snow off the trees onto the tent. So that's kept waking me and the dog up. The dog's actually freaking out a little bit. Also had another sort of little disaster after me saying how much I like this tent. Went out for a pee in the night and the zip on the fly actually broke. It's just velcroed on at the moment, but there's not much holding it. As soon as a gust comes in, and it's broken from the top rather than the bottom as well, which is worse for the rain. I'm all pretty much packed up. Everything's sort of inside the tent and inside my bag, and not far off getting ready to go. The tent's obviously last, but I think anyway I'm gonna just have a coffee inside. It's all wet and dirty inside. There's no saving inside now, so I'll just have a coffee in the main tent and use my Haltifor's sort of leather pad to protect the tent itself. It's not as cold as it looks, honestly. I've just got everything on and my waterproof's on, just so I can go in and out without worrying too much. So yeah, a bit of a miserable morning compared to the high of yesterday, but that's the way it is, especially in February. And somewhere like this, you have to expect that the conditions are not always going to be the best, but it's all part of the fun too. I mean, we're okay, we're safe, we're fed, a warm drink. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. That's the third weekend of the February challenge complete. Again, it's been another good one, another interesting one. I'm really pleased with how the last 3 weekends have gone. I'll put links in the description to everything I talked about, the tent and other bits and pieces of gear, and as always there's links to other bits and pieces on forest management, land management. If you want to, stick around and I'll talk a bit more about Glen Feshie and its part in the Cairngorm Connect project. Hopefully I can find a dry a dry spot to talk about that on the walk back somewhere. But yeah, stick around if you want. If not, then I will see you on the next one for the last weekend of the February challenge. I wasn't expecting to see you again, but the weather's improved a little bit, so I've stopped for a quick bite to eat because I skipped breakfast this morning. I'm just having my other summit to eat meal and making a coffee. But I thought I would take the opportunity as well, just before I go, to talk about a company they reached out to me a couple of months ago. Gienna Tactics, I think that's how it's pronounced. Giena. Again, I'll put a link in the description. That's the dog coughing. Yeah, they're a Russian sort of military outdoor clothing company, and they gave me the opportunity to try out their Pilgrim anorak, which is this one you've seen me wearing in the last few videos, and Pilgrim trousers as well. Now, I hadn't tried them out before, so I didn't really know what I was getting, but honestly this anorak has been absolutely brilliant. It's quite a tough soft shell material. It's fleece lined, it's got a high level of water resistance, very windproof. You know, you can zip it right up. You know, for kind of wet, windy weather. You you know, that kind of damp, snowy days, this is perfect. Honestly, it's really good stuff. Fits really nicely. Plenty of pockets. Like I say, I've got the trousers as well. Same material, fleece lined. I haven't worn them as much because they're very warm, and I would have struggled to walk this kind of distance in them. But if you're heading out to camp for the day and you're just kind of hanging about in one spot, it's a bit windy, damp, that kind of thing, which I have done, they're brilliant. Again, really windproof, warm, and you know, a surprising amount of water resistance. But if you're interested in them and checking them out, and you maybe want to buy something, I've actually got a discount code you can use. It's just Highland, and that'll get you a bit of money off if you decide to purchase anything. But that's definitely me this time. I'm gonna finish this food and coffee and then get back to the van. Don't have too far to go now. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for sticking around again. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. It was a little bit dramatic this morning with the weather. The rain's been on and off this morning walking back. It's a little bit windy too, but it's fine. It's all part of the experience, and especially February in Scotland. But yeah, I just wanted to take a few minutes to chat about where we are again. So we're in Glen Feshie estate. Glen Feshie is a privately owned estate compared to the last two locations that are government owned forests. And Glen Feshie estate was your stereotypical sporting estate, deer and red grouse. And Feshie holds some important Caledonian pine remnants again, and some areas were planted up in the 70s with native and non-native conifers, just like most highland glens were. But after sort of 2000, early 2000s, the estate was coming under a lot of pressure because the deer numbers were not just high, they were almost out of control, and the Caledonian pine woods had no regeneration at all, so they were effectively dying pine woods and in unfavourable condition, and the estate were being asked to sort it out. But that obviously didn't align with the full-on sporting objectives at the time. And I don't know the full story or how it came to an end, but a Danish billionaire, is it Anders Poulsen? I think it's Anders, but Poulsen definitely. He bought the estate in 2004, and he's bought several estates throughout Scotland, and I think he's actually the biggest landowner now in Scotland. And like I say, I don't know if the final decision to sell the estate was because of the pressure they were under. I mean, these estates run quite a fine line anyway at the best of times. You know, they're in a vicious circle of they've created such shitty ground and they're trying to make a living off it, but it's shitty ground, but what they're doing keeps it as shitty ground, so yeah, it just goes on and on. But anyway, Poulsen was a completely different type of person. He wanted to rewild the glen, restore the pine woods, bring nature back, and they've been doing that for the last, 18 years now. And it was controversial at the time because they wanted to get rid of all fences. They didn't want to use fences to protect these woodlands. They wanted to bring down the deer numbers so they were in balance with the natural environment. And that required a lot of culling, which no one wants that, but it was necessary. And they were in the news and they were criticised, and especially by other sporting estates. You know, they didn't like what was happening here. They could feel a change in the way people were viewing these places. But they've carried on, and as you've seen in the video, some of the evidence of natural regeneration now is fantastic. You know, it's working. There's still a lot of work to do in this glen. You know, there's, again, like other places, there's species missing, birch, rowan. But it's on the right track. You know, the pine's coming back in, and at least that shows that the deer are at more acceptable numbers. But at the same time, it took a Danish billionaire to come in and do that. And certainly in the beginning, the estate was heavily subsidised by his fortune to keep things going. And it probably is today to a certain extent. And like I say, most of these highland estates are treading a fine line anyway, and they don't have a Dutch billionaire to keep them afloat. So that's why we're not seeing the same kind of thing happening in other places yet. And it's a shame that it took someone to come in from the outside and almost fix our landscapes, but it's happened, and it's a positive thing at the moment. I still don't like the fact that one person can hold or own so much ground or land, but at least he's trying to do some positive things with it at the moment. But yeah, I'd also just like to talk quickly about the Cairngorm Connect project. For those that haven't heard about this, it started in, I think it was maybe 2018 officially. I could be wrong. But it's basically a partnership between some of the biggest landowners in the national park that have land with the remaining Caledonian pinewood on it. So you've got the RSPB at Abernethy, which then links into Forestry and Land Scotland, who have Glenmore and Rothie Marcus, and then that links into places like Glen Feshie, which is owned by, I think, Wildland Limited is the actual company name. And it's basically a partnership project, a very long-term project again, 100, 200 years long, but it's to have a more joined up thinking when it comes to deer management, forest management, public access, all these things. And the good thing about this project is it has scale. A lot of these restoration projects don't work without scale. You just need it. Or otherwise you're just competing with your neighbours a lot of the time. Like I mentioned in Africa last week, you know, we can only do so much work in Africa until we run into, you know, obstacles with neighbours. It restricts us. So it's a very positive project. There's a lot going on. I'll put links in the description if you want to go and read a bit more about it. But yeah, hopefully we'll see more of these projects popping up. And like I mentioned last week, Darach Highland is a similar vein to that. There's a lot more landowners involved in that ambition at the moment. Like I say, there's only 3 or 4 here just now, but hopefully that will increase too as more people get on board. But I'll leave it there. Again, any questions about anything, just leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, it'd be quite nice if you hit the like button and subscribe and all those things. It really does help the channel and encourages me to keep doing these things. But I'll sign off there, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one, which will be the last weekend of the February challenge. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. Oh, that's the dog. Bit of a roller coaster so far, so we'll see what next weekend brings.